So I don't even know how to approach this story because it's one of those things where if you're not involved in it, it's kind of hard to make sure it's exactly true. But I've seen so much about it that it definitely seems it's more true than not, mainly because if it's one of those things where it's so easily refutable that if it's not being refuted, then I have to believe that I have to believe there is at least some fire to all of this smoke. But part of the reason that you feel like you can't believe it is because it's so unbelievable. Like the actual use of the word, it is hard to believe that somebody would do this. Somebody that actually I kind of liked. I liked as a player, and I thought his vibe was great. But now all of a sudden, Emil Forsberg is in the crosshairs. It's not all of a sudden. This kind of started hitting in late March that something was going on that was very weird with Emil Forsberg, who, if you recognize the name, played in Germany for a long time, Sweden international, very, very good player. And in the winter, he moved to MLS. During MLS offseason, he got signed, I believe, as New York Red Bulls, and Emil Forsberg ended up on the team. And he was, just adjusting to being kind of an older player that got an opportunity to come play in the United States instead. And everything seemed normal. I guess from the outside, that was basically all that I knew, is that Emil Forsberg had moved to the United States, and that was it. But then shit took a massive, insane turn. And there's like an update that came out, I believe today, that I'm good. We're going to talk about later. But the twist in late March was his wife just posted on Instagram. And look, as much as I'd love to interpret this for you, I'm just going to read to you what she said. And then we can react together because it just hits you in a kind of visceral way where you're like, this has to be fake. Some part of this has to be fake. Now, this is his wife of 19 years, by the way. 19 years, multiple kids. We will part ways. Words I thought I would never utter after two children and 19. Well, I guess I could have just read, whatever. 19 years together, and they still feel unreal. I have loved you more than anything and always supported you, but even love has its limits. The greatest love is my children, and I want them to know their worth just as I know mine. Being taken for granted and neglected is not love. A new start in New York was apparently a new start for you in your life. It was just that. I, being a child, did not know about it beforehand. But it became painfully clear quickly. In the newspapers, we have read and seen that you are doing well and are enjoying every moment. You also have future plans. We didn't know about them either. If the reporters even knew you'd been talking to them more than your family these past few months. Since you haven't communicated at all, apart from insisting that you can't explain your actions, let time tell what it was you wanted to achieve by ghosting your family. I hope that in the future you can show respect and consideration for others despite your own needs and have the courage and maturity to communicate. I will continue to put the children's well-being and need for security first. For your sake, I hope you don't regret it and that your new life in New York is worth a divorce in the way you treated your children and their mother. I don't know if I have anything to add to that. Other than if that's true, you're just a gigantic, cowardly piece of shit. Like, okay, if you were having problems in your marriage, right? I'm not married. I never have been married, so maybe I'm not the best person to talk about it. But I do have a general philosophy that I feel like at least sounds good when you say it out loud. If you got a problem with somebody, right, and your actions are going to be affecting them, you probably want to talk to them about it. But what this sounds like basically is, and the reason I said that, the reason I said like if you're having a problem in your marriage is because I'm trying to rationalize here, right? Like I'm trying to come up with some sort of explanation where it would make a modicum of sense for Emil Forsberg to just move to New York. And maybe, the conversation before he moves is like, oh, I'm going there, but, you guys don't have to move to New York. I'll just come back and visit you, when we have breaks during the season and whatever. Because I know there's plenty of professional players that have that sort of arrangement, right? Especially if he's only going to play in New York for a year or two and then call it quits. You don't want to move your kids and your family over here. That makes sense. But I'm trying to find some rationalization for that all happens. You move and then you just don't speak again. You've got kids and a wife and you're just gone. You don't come back. You're not doing anything else. That's unbelievable, right? Like, are you with me now about how unbelievable this accusation is? And we're talking, this is not an irrelevant player in the third division somewhere. Not that you're irrelevant if you're in the third division, but this is Emil Forsberg. I knew who this guy was for years. I have known who this guy was for years. He's been to a World Cup quarterfinal. He's been playing in the Bundesliga. He's been playing against the best people in the world for a long time. Legit player, married for 19 years with multiple kids, which I didn't really know that until this story broke, but it's very relevant now. But he basically just left. Right? That's the way that it sounds like. In this story, it's on Goal where they pulled the full quote. That's why I wanted to read it from here. They said that he hadn't really responded to it. I've kind of looked for a response. I can't really find one. Like, I don't know if he's ever actually fully addressed this or if he's just gone with the PR move of just sidestepping it or whatever. But this dropped in late March, and that was kind of it. Like, there wasn't too much bubbling around this. If I was an investigative journalist, I'd be hopping on this. I'd be on this like white on rice. I would be all over this story because it's insane. This is like an extreme of the human experience. This is unconscionable for the vast majority of people on the planet. Like, sure, there's shitty people. There's always shitty people. You can be a terrible person. There's terrible people all over the place. There's terrible people all over the world. But to disguise being a terrible person for this long, or to have some sort of cognitive dissonance or, out of sight, like he didn't have object permanence with his own family. He was all of a sudden in New York, and it was like crossing the Atlantic Ocean just wiped his memory. He's not communicating with his family at all. He's just pretending like they don't exist. He just moved to New York and he's playing in MLS, and it's just a completely new life for him. And the reason I'm saying that is because this has been continued. This is the translated post on Instagram from a dude named Bitter Z7, right? In the translated post that came out today, this is the update, said, finally, there is an end to the mystery that befell our family. So this is the clarification now being provided by Shanga here. I know for sure that Emil took an interest in someone else when I was heavily pregnant with our second child. Then when she was newborn, he got a girlfriend. Congratulations, Fanny Ernenstam, which is the most Swedish name I've ever heard. I don't even know if she's Swedish. I'm just rolling with it. And good luck with your boyfriend. Hope he doesn't do the same thing to you after 19 years. Who knows? For me, the Emil Forsberg chapter now ends. The hell guy that, translate just messed up there, I'm assuming, that no one thought could do something like this. Even I haven't dared to think the thought. But not everyone can handle a double life, nor to go out in the media with lies to save his own skin. Now, I've been looking for those, but I actually can't find them. Like, I don't think he gave a substantive response to this because I can't find any stories Googling a bunch of different things about his response to this, right? Because it dropped, and I remember when it dropped, and I just assumed that it was a lie. And now we're back here, and none of this seems to have been cleared up at all. It looks like Emil Forsberg just ditched his... Anyways, I'm getting lost in my next thought. Many thanks to everyone who took the time to get in touch and write messages. I've read everything and value every word. It's obvious that there are far too many of us who has been through the same thing. If that's true, what the hell's going on? How many people move to a different continent and just abandon their family? And here's the thing. If I was Emil Forsberg, I don't think I would be, it would be possible for me to do this, but how? I mean, you're just throwing away 19 years of your life. Like, I'm not a psychologist, but this story it's impossible to resist the temptation to try to explain it, to try to put yourself in this situation, right? You're a world-class international footballer. You've got everything going for you, right? And I guess that's always a misnomer. You never know what's going on behind the scenes, right? But on the outside, you've got all of this great stuff going for you, and you seem to be reacting well to it. Right? This is not somebody that's got like 7 drunk driving offenses and gets into a fight every other year that gets him almost kicked out of the sport. This is not somebody with a history of problematic behavior, at least that I can find, that is just all of a sudden gone AWOL. Just fell in love with a different woman. Maybe the transfer to New York was they were planning this secret getaway, but it's kind of hard to elope when you're a professional athlete, right? Like, it's very hard maybe that's the issue. He's trying to do what plenty of other shitty dudes have done throughout history, but it's much more challenging for Emil Forsberg because he is in the public eye. And even idiots like me know who Emil Forsberg is. But you know what? Maybe we shouldn't be hating on Emil Forsberg because he wanted to go out there and live a normal life like any other shitty dude and just do something awful. And he'd be damned if everybody happened to know that that's what he did. But yeah, this is unbelievable. I'm abusing that word. I'm overusing it. I should break out my thesaurus. But how the hell is this possible? How the hell is this possible at all? Right? Like you could to do this. Can he go back to Sweden? Do they have to pay alimony? I have 80 questions. I'm going to hire a Swedish lawyer or something to try and help me figure out exactly how this is going to play out. Can you do? You can't do that. You can't do this. Legally, I don't think you can do this. There's got to be some sort of financial repercussion. My brain's exploding. This makes no sense. I mean, seriously, you type Emil Forsberg wife response, Emil Forsberg response. You type in Emil Forsberg. There's nothing that'll come up with this. They're just talking about him being selected for the Swedish national team for the Euros, right? But we're not able to find any. I'm not able to find anything where he responds to this. And if that's the case, bro, somebody's got to write a story about this. I'm sorry. The only other alternative is that this woman is literally making everything up. And if that was happening, I feel like over the past 2 months, somebody might have aired that out, right? But as far as I can tell, Shonga and the two kids are hanging out on one end of the Atlantic. Emil Forsberg's on the other, and they've cut all lines of communication. Well, he cut all lines of communication. And she's basically just had to stalk media outlets or the media people that she said that he's talking to more than he's talking to her and the kids, right? That's the other thing. Even if you're having a huge falling out with your wife, it's your kids. They're your kids. I mean, one was just born, dude. The article says 2 young kids. The hell did they do? Oh, maybe, I don't think she is, but in the worst alternate version of this, where your wife is just some absolutely turbo insano person, right? The kids. What are you doing? What are you doing? I don't get it, man. Maybe this is one of those things you're just not supposed to get. Maybe it's some sort of giant practical joke, because there aren't a lot of other people talking about this. I just have kept track of it as kind of a side hobby, and it was finally time to come clean that I've been passionately interested in how insane this story is for 2 months, and I've not found a way to not talk about it. So here we are.